Welcome to the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil
and Renee, where amazing things happen. Our goal is to help build, repair, and restore healthy relationships.
Our primary focus is on the marriage relationship. However, the topics are applicable to the relationships that we value most. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.
Episode 29, Unpacking Your Holiday Drama.
I feel like it's like a special day or something. It's like a celebration or something. I have this sense of just excitement.
Is that because of the holidays?
Yeah, it is.
But you know what comes along with the holiday season?
Yes, there's two visitors that always come.
Which are?
The introvert and the extrovert. The person that is excited and exhilarated by being around large groups of people, and the person that is totally worn out. And that could be why there's so much family drama and holiday drama during the holidays.
And we're going to be talking about that next in this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee.
Stay tuned. Well, you know, I was talking about Christmas, but I was also talking about today is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I am 52, and this is episode 29.
Right.
I just love doing this. Today's topic is about unpacking your holiday drama. And if you notice in the image, there's an empty room. And of course, in an empty room, there's always no drama. But I talked about the two people who come to every event, and it's the introvert and the extrovert. And the reason why I use those examples is because if we just think about just that part of relationships, is that the person who is an introvert is normally very frustrated by organized events and big crowds of people, and the person that is the extrovert is energized by it. And so if we just remember that, those two things in going into the holidays, I think it's going to really help us to alleviate some of what the drama is. So if I were going to describe or give you the definition of what drama is, I would say that it is stress, anxiety, and unresolved conflicts.
Okay.
And so what do you think about that?
Well, it's always a good topic to kind of visit, even especially now during the holiday season, because for everyone, the holidays is not a festive. Some, I won't say everyone.
For most people, it's different. It's mixed emotions.
For some people, the holiday season is not a festive time.
Right.
It's one that can lead to maybe some bad experiences they had and
childhood memories.
Yeah, all those things that make it less than a fun time for some. And I think, like you just described, those three elements, the unresolved conflict, the anxiety, and the stress, lead to people down the road sometimes that can be the catalyst for conflict that comes not just with family, but also in their personal lives, but also in their professional lives.
And also in your hearts and in your minds.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that the holidays either make you happier or sadder. And so I think that's why we see more depression and we see more suicide, because people are surrounded by a group of people that make them feel that maybe the way they feel, there's something wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a part of it is maybe thinking about the fact that everyone is not like you, and to consider that just like for you, you might be excited and exhilarated by the idea of going to 20 different people's houses. Someone else might be dreading it. And so a part of it is just like we talk about being assertive and having good communication, is having a schedule and talking about, hey, where are we going to go? Because you can't say yes to everyone.
You know, before we start getting into providing people with some of the solutions or tools or maybe ideas that they can implement to try to decrease some of the drama, I think it's important that we always kind of go back to the beginning.
Yes.
The beginning of things. Everything has a beginning.
An origin, a genesis.
Right. And one of the things that when it comes to conflict, and while we titled the show Drama, it's really not drama, it's really conflict.
It is.
You know, and when you think about conflict, if it's not dealt with, it just festers.
Right.
You know, and then it starts manifesting in other areas to where people's behavior makes 100% sense to them.
Yes.
And you may not agree with it, you may not like it, but to that person, something that you think is like, why did you do that?
Right.
Or why are you doing this or that, or causing these rifts? It makes sense to them.
Right.
And so that's something that you have to start, I think, a good place to start with looking at.
And it goes back to, and the reason why it's unpack your holiday drama is because we have to start with the reflection in the mirror. We really have to begin to evaluate ourselves and ask ourselves, why is this? Why do I have these feelings about or emotions attached to the holidays? And a lot of times if we would just sit down before we have to go to that event or before we have to pick a gift, if we would kind of examine ourselves, because we know every year that the holidays are coming and we don't prepare for them emotionally as much as we do as far as buying gifts. And so I think we do ourselves a disservice when we don't prepare spiritually and emotionally for a time of being in close proximity to people that you either love or that you don't love.
Now, does that come back to what you were already talking about, the introvert and the extrovert?
Well, I think that that's a framework, but I think even within the introvert and the extrovert, it still goes back to your childhood origin issues. If you grew up in a happy environment where Christmas was a great experience, then either you're introvert or extrovert, you enjoy it. But if you grew up in an environment where you were neglected and you were left alone and you were mistreated, the holidays can have a very negative connotation, whether you're introverted. So I think that the introvert and extrovert is just a framework, but it still goes back to your origin story, how it was for you growing up. And I think that's a part of when you get into a relationship with someone, you have to really talk about, well, what are your experiences and traditions, and what are my experiences and traditions, and then talk about it before it happens so that you're not caught off guard. You talked about it today about getting the answers to the test before the test and studying and being prepared versus trying to do it off the cuff.
Right. You said something earlier about the way people who are naturally introverted and then are kind of drained by engagements, and people who are extroverted are kind of fueled by it. And how did you started making that connection in the intro? Can you go a little bit further with that for our listeners? And because it was a good point that you made with it.
Well, I think a part of it is in your family. There are people just like you who are fueled by engagements and love to, go to everyone's house. And then there are people in your family who may not be like you, who may not want to do that. And that's not just in your household as far as your husband and your wife, but you have cousins and you have aunts, and you can always tell the people that they love it because that's normally where the events are held. Mm-hmm. And then we drag the said introvert to those environments, and we want them to react the way we would react.
Right.
And so I think a part of that is before you plan this event, before you invite everyone, really begin to think about not just, because we do it for weddings. When we're planning who we're going to sit at the table, we don't sit all the introverts together. We don't sit all the extroverts together. We kind of try to mix it up. But we need to take that same approach in thinking about the holidays. Think about the people that they enjoy it and try to spend more time around people and places that you enjoy going versus going places that you don't. I think it would make the holidays a lot more enjoyable for everyone. And even if you have to go someplace you don't enjoy going, I think a part of it is realizing that the reason why today is called the present is because it's a gift. And sometimes we miss out on giving the gift of our presence to people because, again, we may not like it, we may not want to. But if someone invites you somewhere, even if you feel like your first response is, well, I don't want to go, I shouldn't have gone, I shouldn't have been invited, that goes back to how you see yourself. And it's so important that we all change the idea that we're not valuable, that we're not worthy, that we're not someone wants to be around. And if we would change that mindset when we're invited places and when we go places, we can go there with a much more positive approach and mindset versus going there being upset or angry or feeling unwanted or rejected.
Because you think about what you just kind of described, but I think before you get there, you should already be thinking about it,
Oh,
the
yes.
Boy Scouts have a saying, be prepared.
Yes.
When you go into engagements with family and those types of things, you know who are the, I would just say, agitators, instigators, or people who just kind of speak their mind all the time, or just very verbally outspoken,
Right.
have an opinion about everything, about everyone, and they don't mind sharing it with you.
Without being solicited.
So it's almost like you know it's coming. So before you even engage with it, or even put your, or in the environment, be prepared. You know, be prepared in the sense of, I know what's coming, and I can almost start planning for how am I going to react to it.
And I think that's the key. We have to be willing to own our part in things. If you see that there's a hole in the ground and you step your foot into it, you really can't blame the person that created the hole, because you saw it as well.
Right.
And so I think when the Bible says we should live with people according to the knowledge of who they are, I think that sometimes we have this idea that, well, it's Christmas and I feel so happy and cheery. And so then you go in an environment where people aren't, and then you allow it to rob
Change
you
you.
of your joy or your peace. You know, I give an example of something that I learned to do early when it comes to shopping during the holidays. I am not a complainer, and people who complain, they annoy me. And so what I learned to do, because it was my natural personality to try to correct them and say, well, there's something, you know, when you're trying to have an argument with a person who is, or when you're trying to have a conversation about being positive with a person that's negative, they're going to win because they already came into a lose, so they're going to win. And so what I learned to do is during the holidays when I'm out shopping, I wear, this was before earpods, earbuds.
Earbuds.
I put on headphones. And so I don't hear.
Is that to keep people from talking to you?
No, it's to keep me from hearing people.
No, keep you from talking to others.
It's for both.
Okay.
I can't respond to what I don't hear.
Okay.
And that was how I developed the discipline and the self-control to not respond, because I was controlling me. Mm-hmm. And so the more I did that, the more I started to realize, well, you know what? If you just learn to, if information wasn't requested, it wasn't received, it would be a lot better. But those are just some of the practical ways. We have to find ways to monitor us and not try to control other people.
Right. And another important aspect is to set boundaries. You mentioned that already a little bit.
Yes, because boundaries are important for us. Mm-hmm. Because anything that God sees as valuable, he puts boundaries around it. And it's not to keep us out. It's to keep us protected. It's to keep us safe, because one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. And I think one of the biggest issues, you were talking before about people who feel that it's their responsibility to give everyone the truth and to tell them what they think. If we would control ourselves the way we try to control other people, our relationships would be a lot more enjoyable. And when people begin to give you advice or give you their opinion about things, rather than allowing it to escalate, I've learned that when people ask you questions that are inappropriate, if you answer a question with a question, it really stops people in their tracks.
For example?
Ask me a question.
About what?
Any question.
How was your day?
How was your day?
Okay.
So, because a lot of times when you don't respond and you just ask a question of that person, it makes them have to think. Because most people who talk a lot, they're not thinking. Your brain can't think and talk at the same time. So when you ask them, how was your day? It's like it can kind of catch people off guard. And so it helps for you to kind of learn.
It requires them to stop and think and formulate a response and think about, well, how was my day? They got to do some introspective and come up with a response for you. So he kind of throws them off balance.
I would believe that it does.
Right.
And so
go ahead.
And so a part of it is, establishing healthy boundaries for yourself where you're not causing conflict, but where you're bringing peace, you're bringing grace to every environment that you go into. Because people, like you said, people are who they are, and the things that they do make sense to them. And we have to stop acting as if we
It's a
are surprised
shock.
when people do what they do. I always say, well, at least they're consistent.
Right. And one of the things you can actually do as it pertains to setting those boundaries is to set time limits.
Yes. We did that before we knew what we were doing.
Set time limits with those people who can be a little bit more challenging and that you may not really enjoy their company. And sometimes if you're in an environment where it's kind of forced, where you're going to be with this person or persons for an extended amount of time, you can kind of already set a limit on how much you may want to engage with them or look for other distractions or other avenues of escape, so to speak,
right,
where you can go and talk to someone who is not as stressful or not stressful at all, that you enjoy, and let them monopolize a lot of your time.
Yeah. And what's so funny, before you didn't have, cell phones can be a great thing too. When you are in a conversation or in a situation where you need an escape, it's like, oh, I just got this. Hey, I gotta go. I gotta go get this. Can I get back with you? Let me finish this. Because when you do that, you break the contact of something escalating versus you standing there and it building. If you feel yourself, you feel your emotions give yourself a timeout. Whatever you can do to make sure that you're maintaining the peace and you're respecting yourself. Because a part of it is understanding this is a time of giving and cheer and spending time with people that you may not see again. It's not a time to bring up things that you don't have the time to really. Because one of the things we always talk about whenever there's a conflict, you should define the conflict, set a time where you can resolve the conflict, but also have some strategic plans on how you're going to correct it.
Right.
If you can't do those three things, all you're going to do is argue.
Right. And it's just going to stay alive, and it's going to be the same thing you're going to be re-engaging with the next holiday that you kind of get with those people. And another boundary that you can kind of set is avoid certain topics.
Yes.
Avoid topics that are inflammatory or kind of elicit some conflict with people. Some people may say it's politics. Some people may say it's religion. Some people may say
some people it's
even
sports.
Right. We're in we live in an area where college football is the main
It's like
thing.
a religion, man.
Right. So you have to avoid those certain topics that can kind of be a catalyst for conflict, is what I would probably describe it.
And another thing you can do that I think has really helped me a lot, and it makes things so much better, is to lower our expectations of other people and raise our expectation of ourselves, which we're normally the opposite. We give ourselves a lot of grace and we give other people demands. And so if I don't expect for you to get me the gift I've always wanted, and I don't expect for you to have my favorite meal prepared, and I don't expect for you to welcome me with open arms and cheer and clap when I walk into the room, I just might not be disappointed when those things don't happen.
Right. Manage those expectations.
Yes. And our expectations of ourselves should be, it's Christmas, it's the holidays, I should be kinder, I should be more patient, I probably should be more quiet, or I probably should talk more.
Right.
And so, because if you only are going to have this one opportunity to spend with, your family and these friends or these coworkers, use the time wisely, because again, a day is a gift and we are only going to get so many of those. And so we want to make sure that we invest them wisely and that we're building and repairing and restoring healthy, rich relationships.
Right. And I think this is a good time that we do Got Wisdom, Got Questions.
It's that time. It's that time.
So we actually have two this week.
we just
came back from the holidays, and as we usually do during this time in our show, we thank everybody for listening and partnering in with us and joining the community and giving us feedback and giving us encouragement. And we thank you for all the guests that we've had on the show. It's been it doesn't seem like it's been as long as it has, but it's been, somebody came up to me last week and said, man, y'all still normally some people during podcast season you do series or you do a season, and most of the time there is no hard rule on how long it can be. It's really up to you. But most people don't do 30 straight they take breaks in between, but maybe it's a
We're
rookie.
just
Maybe it's
different.
just a rookie thing that we're doing, and we really don't understand
Well,
that.
I
But
think
we
once
just
a week is a reasonable, because this is something that most of us never get help with.
right.
And so I think that this is something we can commit to doing every
Sure.
week until Jesus comes.
Right. Well, we don't know when that's going to be, but
Yeah.
we will try to be here.
Yes, we will be
But
here.
we are
unless
also
we're gone.
But we're also going to have a balance, and what I
Yes.
mean by that is we're going to take a couple weeks off because we have our anniversary coming up, and obviously it's
Yes.
during the holiday season, and we want, much as we would love everyone to spend time with us. Listening to the show, we also want them to spend time with
With their
those they
family.
love
That's
and that they
right.
care about, and come back with us. We're going to be here, and we're going to be giving us time to get some episodes in the queue and get them all squared away and get them uploaded, so you can, when you come back for the new year,
Yes.
you'll be ready to be recharged and ready to go with your relationships. But as we were talking about it, we got wisdom, got question, and we're going to start out with the got wisdom this week from Sharita Lovelace, and we were on.
From Sharita Lovelace.
Yes, we were on her show this past week, and it was an awesome time. It was just a good conversation, and she left us with some words of wisdom. And her words of wisdom, well, actually, she's got both this week.
The question
wisdom
and the
the
wisdom.
question. The question, or with the wisdom, I'm sorry. The wisdom is someone at their lowest brings a stronger appreciation for when they stand at their highest.
You can tell she's a poet.
she has a way with words.
And so you guys meditate on that. And so if I had to say what that means to me is that don't despise small beginnings, because our lowest are the least of them, all of those, because the Bible tells us the first will be last. And so stop being afraid of failure or shortcomings, because all of those things mean that God can use that to help us get better and stronger.
Oh, absolutely. And even from that, everything has a beginning.
It does.
And nobody is an expert when they first start doing anything. So, and sometimes, like you just described, it can be a low point.
Right.
That we always want to excel at things. But even someone who is at the low point in their life, when it's only lasts for a season.
Yes. And even being at the high point of your life only lasts for a season.
Right. So, and then the got question, again, is from Sharita
Lovelace.
And it's, okay, this is a good one now. I'll let you start out answering it since I'm reading it.
Okay.
Is how important is family's opinion when introducing a future spouse? Ooh, I know our listeners our listeners are probably like, ooh, how would I answer that? But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Well, I would say that if they're already a future spouse before you introduce them to your family, it probably doesn't matter. Because I think that you should introduce your family to who you are serious about once you become serious.
And I know the answer to this, but explain why that is important.
Because if they're already a future spouse, you've already possibly made commitments that it doesn't matter what anyone else is going to say.
Right.
Your mind is already made up. You've already committed. And so basically it's only going to cause conflict if they don't agree with the decision you made. So I think that it's wiser and it's more important that when we get serious with someone, that we introduce that person to the people that are important to us.
Right. And that was kind of the direction I was going to go in, is sometimes you may not have the greatest of families when it comes to being engaged and being involved with your life, or you may not even have that opportunity. Maybe your family is disconnected from you, or by geographically, or even because of other things that have happened. But family is anyone that you value their opinion, and that you value them as a person,
and you know that they love you unconditionally,
right? And that they are a person of influence in your life.
Right.
It's almost having that inner circle to where you value their opinion and what they're saying. So when you say, just like our question said, how important is their opinion? Well, that the answer is already there in the question.
Right.
Obviously, if you're bringing this person to your family, you already are saying this is important, what you think.
Right.
What the person has to be mindful of is don't get blinded by the
emotion of the relationship.
As one of the doctors that we always talk about, the honeymoon experience, talks about, when you're in a new relationship, it's great.
Yeah, they're perfect.
I mean, it's hard to see because, one, you don't know a lot about them and all the things of that has happened in their life. So you really can't really say you know everything. So you want to see more good than you see bad. Yeah. But the luxury of having intimate people in your life and in your inner circle is they're going to see that person as they see them. Maybe you don't.
Right.
And you have to be willing to accept their feedback.
Right.
Don't call it opinion. Call it feedback.
Yeah.
To where when they tell you something, you at least listen.
Right.
So I think that's important.
Because the Bible says that in the counsel of many, there is safety.
Absolutely.
We have become a society that we want lots of followers and likes, but no one giving us direction, no one giving us
real solid feedback,
no one telling us no. And that's unhealthy because you can't do it on your own. We need each other. We need the community of the people who love and care about us.
Absolutely. So again, we thank you for Sharita
Lovelace.
I'm sorry, Lovelace.
There you go.
For the Got Wisdom, Got Questions this week. And if you want to send in your Got Wisdom, Got Questions, you can
send it to our Gmail at richrelationshipsus@gmail.com, or you can go to our website at richrelationshipsus.com.
Got Wisdom, Got Questions.
Gil and Renee Beaver's over 30-year relationship is the genesis for the Rich Relationship Podcast, which is designed to empower individuals with the tools, principles, and the community needed to unpack ourselves, our past, and our preconceived notions associated with relationships.
Let's get empty and grow together so that our lives will be filled with love and healthy, rich relationships. Now let's go into our show.
So we are talking about unpacking your family drama during the holidays, and this is a touchy subject for some, and for some it's been hopefully a point where they can take some of the things that we've already talked about and use them. Right. Use the tools.
Because we try to help you with your relationship with food before Thanksgiving. And so we're trying to prepare us for what it's going to be like to go into all these different events and parties and family and buying gifts. And one of the things I would really caution you to do when it comes to purchasing gifts, one of the things that we do in our family is we do the white elephant.
Right.
And I think that makes it so much fun because it's not about how much money you spend.
No.
It's really more about the experience, because I think that most of us have a whole lot of things.
We don't need no more stuff.
But we lack experiences. So to me, that's one of the things that I'm going to give that y'all for free. Share in something that makes it about the experience and not the gift. Because I was in a store and I was listening to a girl. Yes, I was listening to her conversation, and she was talking, and she was saying, I don't know what to give my parents because they got everything. If you have that person in your life who you deem as having everything, give them an experience. It'll go a lot further, and they'll enjoy it a lot more than giving them another trinket or a bauble.
Right.
Give them an act of service. I used to love when Aaron would clean out my closet for me. That was like one of my favorite gifts, organizing and things that you don't have the time to do. So don't just think about buying something.
Don't have time to do or don't like to do.
Both.
The reason why I say that is because you're laundry. But that's a whole other conversation.
I'm waiting for the day, y'all, that Gil would just do my laundry for me for good, because I really hate it. He's so good at it.
It builds discipline.
No,
but that's
a
whole other conversation.
Anyway.
So
that's what I want for Christmas, a year of laundry.
Oh, okay. So moving on. So one of the things that we want to share with you is just a couple things that, especially during the holiday season, as we kind of come into a close in this episode, is a couple things to be mindful about is give people grace to be human, especially during this holiday season.
Yes.
You mentioned it earlier about, the time to resolve conflicts that have been lingering and going on for years is not the family dinner. No. It's not the family party. No. It's not the work party that you may have had a conflict with someone, because it's been going on long before this event has happened. So like Renee said, set a time, define the problem, and then come up with some action steps that you can take, not what the other person can take, that you can take.
Right.
And one of those action steps is, I think, kind of universal, is give the person grace during this holiday season.
Right. You know, and I want to address two things.
Okay.
For the person who is listening to this, or if you have someone in your life who is really struggling, they may be really sad, they may have had a loss, it might be their first holiday without a loved one, please, please, please check on people.
Yes.
Don't leave people who you know like to be alone. Don't leave them alone at this time. Because if you leave them alone during this season, they're more likely to do something they wouldn't normally do when they're attended to.
Right. It doesn't mean you have to be intrusive and just show up on their doorstep. Take them to lunch. Take them for coffee, or just engage with them for a few minutes. Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Something that you get in their face or get in their presence, just to kind of do a visual check.
Yes. And another thing is to make sure that you think about the fact that the purpose of this holiday is a gift of love. It's an act of sacrifice. It's an act of giving us something that we didn't all have. And so, although it's nice to think about, you know, the food and the people, don't forget about what the real meaning of Christmas is. And Christmas is a time when God sent His Son, His only Son, to die for us. And so, if He could send His only Son to die for us, we can die to our own attitudes and appetites, and not be tempted to have a conversation about something that was private in a public setting. Because if you do that, it's going to only ignite and turn into something really bad. So if you have something you do want to talk to somebody about, don't do it in an open setting, because something that's between two people should only be between those two people. If you do it in an environment where everyone is there and everyone is listening, everyone is going to add to it, and you won't remember what the real issue was.
Right.
So like Gil said, set aside a time. Think about what the real issue is, and then already have some things you want to do different to make things better. Especially
coming into 2020.
Yes.
Let's not go into 2020 carrying the same things we held on to in 2019.
Please, let's let some stuff go this year, and let's be a new person. Let's do something different. Let's grow and let's change. Like we say, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.
So let's grow.
We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for your investment in time. Remember to subscribe to the show and hit the notification icon to be notified when new episodes are posted on the podcast platform that you're listening from.
Or you can always find us on our website at richrelationshipsus.com or our YouTube channel, Rich Relationships with Gil and Renee. If you found this podcast helpful, or you think it could help someone that you know and care about, please pass it along and share it with them.
And also, you can always send your questions and comments to richrelationships.us@gmail.com. This is a weekly podcast, and the new episodes are going to be posted on Monday by 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.